Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing well. I am so sorry that this is actually a restart for those of you that are watching on replay. This is actually a restart. I started this podcast already, but the sound was so bad, so bad. Sometimes the internet connection here can do all kinds of things, and it's not anything that I have control of. But such was the sound quality that I just had to start again because I'm so grateful for those of you that are patient on lives, but I cannot have a bad internet on replay for those watching on replay. I just can't have that. So I appreciate you all so much if you're coming back into the chat, and let's just get into it. So I think we all understand by now that it is a toss up whether or not Harry and Meghan whether or not Meghan and the children are coming with Harry to the UK today. I'm obviously 8 hours ahead, so we're going to see as the day rolls on. And then tomorrow is the judgment for Harry's case. It's looking like if Meghan and the kids do come, they may not come to London. It would be interesting, and I would love to see it if Harry and Meghan feel safe enough for Meghan to accompany Harry to court and bring all of the attention to that court case from the Daily Fail. Oh my God. But we're going to find out tomorrow. But just expect that for the next 48 hours, it is going to be an ish show of nonsense, of briefing, of clownery. The individuals in the palace will be behaving like the jesters for the next 48 hours. Like the jesters and the clowns. And because Harry and Meghan and possibly the children were going to come to the UK, guess what? They pulled out the whole Middleton family this week. In fact, the whole royal establishment has worked more hard in the last week than they have probably the whole year. Kate even did a Three Peaks challenge. Now, I'm still researching this, so I'm not saying this as fact because I'm still looking into it. There has been some suggestion that she was driven between sites or helicoptered between sites. And here, now we're finding out that apparently they, greeted her at the bottom of one of the peaks and they all came out. I just find it so interesting that, oh, even the dog came, by the way. I just find it so interesting that while this whole saga was going on, we barely saw the Middletons. In fact, Pippa was holidaying when the news broke. Like, if my sister had cancer, I wouldn't be able to sleep. I don't know about you lot, but I don't think I'd be holidaying off in the Caribbean. We barely saw them. We only saw William at the hospital once, and now they all come out. Now, apparently she was mic'd for this, and there could be some kind of show or something that they filmed. I guess we'll find out. And I'm still digging into whether or not she was actually helicoptered. Helen CG said Hen was helicoptered between sites. It showed a pic with her bio helicopter. Let me just do my deep dive. There's been stuff on the royal blogs, but I need to do my deep dive. I don't say anything on here unless I've cross-checked. But I want us to just listen to, before I get into that actually, just wanted to point out the tabloid fools and commentators, oh, they're all jumping on this to get them some juice, clicks and juice. Kirsty Alsop, who I haven't heard from a while, by the way. I believe she actually got some Sussex karma. I can't remember what it was that happened to her. Did her show get cancelled or something? Anyway, she posted this. In about 12 years, these children will rebel. They will come to the UK, meet their cousins and other family, and bitterly resent their British life being taken from them. It is also staggeringly predictable and sad for all concerned how the Sussexes never read a novel. This is hilarious. Because number one, I predict this is actually what's going to happen with the Wells children. And this ridiculous lady, I believe that she knows this to be the case as well. They're out here writing fan fiction about the wrong children. I have friends who live in California. It's a beautiful, if you have decent enough money, of course, it's a beautiful place to grow up. And the incredible home that Harry and Meghan have for their children, who they're surrounded with, it is fan fiction and nonsense. Fan fiction and nonsense to think that these children are going to rebel and go back to a country where the threat towards their lives means that they could end up killed. You mean the country where presenters on some of the biggest shows in that country, on the BBC, were calling Archie a monkey? Where Meghan was depicted 10 tones darker than her skin color, knifing Kate? Where the first major headline about their mother was straight out of Compton? Where people like Sarah Vine, married to one of the top people in the UK government at the time, now divorced because she wasn't paying attention to her own marriage, was writing headlines like, "I have a niggling feeling," about Harry and Meghan's engagement. They're going to rebel and go back to the country where they were being talked about and treated like that. Are you for real? Are you for real? Where they'd be hounded by paparazzi and tabloid reporters? Where they have family members that were asking about the darkness of their skin color? Where their pedo befriending uncle is protected more than them? That's what they're going to go running back to. What a delusional take. What an utterly delusional take. Ain't never seen anything so delusional. Right now, the Wells children show up to events and see what their future is. Their future is getting food. Because this institution is becoming more and more criticized. They've already, as children, seen that. They're seeing that everywhere they go with their parents. I wouldn't be surprised if in their own minds, those children have already decided they want nothing to do with any of this. Now, George is going to be forced into it. He's going to Eton. George, unfortunately, whenever I see him in public, he looks so sad. I don't think maybe at one of the football matches, he seems to be happy there, but it's like they're up in the stands, he's enjoying the match. But at more official engagements, I never see that young man happy. Charlotte, I think, has adopted this queenly demeanor. She does seem rather stoic in public. But for a young girl of her age, I think that is very, very sad. No young child should have to have that level of responsibility of being this, public-facing mannequin. That is not normal. And especially with all of the chaos surrounding this institution and very serious issues surrounding this institution. To try and use these children to soften the blow is diabolical and it's unethical. And then, of course, for Louis, because he is the youngest and the second spare and the most charismatic, they will use him the way the media used Harry. They're going to do the exact same thing to Louis that they did to Harry. The exact same thing. FYI, just for your information, I don't know if I'm still going to be doing this podcast or if maybe I'll leave for a bit and then come back. But if I just so happen to still be here, maybe with a baby on my hip, doing this podcast, I will never say anything about the Wells' children. I don't care if they're, falling out of nightclubs, doing whatever their young, Uncle Harry was doing when he was young. You will never hear me say anything. Nothing. I will have nothing to say, even when they're young adults, because I will. And I think a lot of the commentators in this space do not want to behave in the way that the tabloids are going to be behaving. They behave, as if they're not part of the problem. And they do the exact same thing over and over again. History repeating itself over and over again. So I will let the British tabloids do exactly what we all know they're going to do and have no part of it. And unfortunately, it is going to be the world's children, I believe, begging to go over to the US. Not the other way around. All right, let's listen to this news report from Sky. Actually, no, I'm going to do another news report with Jeannie Bond.
Even at this stage, because it's been made
and
clear
Nana
that
Akua.
he's not going to bring Meghan and the children to
That
London,
weirdo.
but that doesn't mean necessarily that they won't come elsewhere, albeit possibly Birmingham, where he's going to be doing the countdown from the Victors' Games, which I think Meghan probably will attend. And then as regards possibly bringing the children to meet their grandfather, the King, we've got Sandringham, got Balmoral, got Highgrove. There are places outside London where the door has been left open to that happening, but I think it would be very much in private. But you're right, it's all over security. For the life of me, I cannot understand why this has been allowed to happen. I don't understand why he's not being given security. He feels he needs it. He is the King's son. His children are the King's grandchildren. He is a former army officer.
If I was Harry, I wouldn't be having Meghan and the children at any of these royal estates. I don't even think Harry should go to any of those royal estates, because I think if you go to any of the main royal estates, I think you're a sitting duck. Oh, the security guard wasn't paying attention. Oh, the security guard showed up that day for work and he was drunk and on drugs and wasn't able to do his job properly, and somebody scaled the fence. People have scaled the fences of Windsor, of Kensington Palace. And there have even been reports of security doing a lax job. Don't give them an excuse to come up with something. Type of folks that will tell you that the CCTV just happened to not be working when Epstein unalived himself. Don't trust them. You will be a sitting duck in those royal residences. Literally better off just privately renting somewhere where nobody knows where you are and having your security be there. I would be very surprised if there are any royal residences. I wouldn't risk it. I actually think it's safer to just go to an unknown location. You're only going to be there for a couple of nights. Maybe even have a friend rent the place for you and then go there. Or if you have a friend of a friend that has an estate somewhere. Meghan has friends that live in London. Even last time Harry was in London, we didn't even know where he was. He went to somebody else's house, accidentally buzzed on the door. And then we got the ring light footage of that. Or at least pictures. I don't think we got footage. But I do not think that you're safe in a royal residence. I just don't.
Officer, by his own reckoning, who has killed 25 Taliban fighters. And as regards anyone who wishes this country ill, he still is probably a working royal. They don't know the difference or don't bother with these nuances of whether you're a working royal or not. He's a prince, he's royal, and he's a target.
Yeah, but he's not a working royal, is he? And he has got security. He has got security. He does get a level of security. It's not like he's going around without security. He wanted Ravik, which was the problem here. So he has security. He's not coming...
Armed security. He doesn't have armed security. Armed security that he offered to pay for, by the way. I mean, every time I see Nana, I'm like, geez, exactly, me too. And by the way, another part of this is that the fact that Harry offered to pay for that armed security. You know what that means? Harry and Meghan got money. Money. And their own. And that's another part of all of this. That is an issue for the institution. Because if Harry and Meghan can pay their own way, okay, the others should pay their own way as well.
Coming with no protection. But what he's complaining about is that he's not getting the highest level royal protection that he feels he deserves. But he's made it worse for himself, giving out kill counts as though he's not really bothered about the security of himself and his family, which is very dangerous. And also, a lot of people who look at this feel that he's just using the children as bargaining chips to get what he wants, which is rather unattractive.
Well, I think that's very callous.
They didn't say that about the Welsh children when they put the Welsh children in those carriages for a second year in a row, knowing that the protesters were going to be there. And of course, the protesters have every right to be there, but they didn't have to subject those kids to that. They could have just gone on, had those kids up on that balcony that they go on about all the time, and not had those kids in the carriages. So you want to talk about using children as bargaining chips? Why don't they talk about how the Welsh children are used?
To suggest that. I think that he feels that he believes his security team, who've drawn up a report who say that they've identified at least 6 terror threats against him and his family, 5 of which originated in the UK. He believes his security team, who say they've seen an al-Qaeda document calling for his assassination. He's not so perturbed about his own security, but he is about his children's and his wife's, particularly after what happened to his own mother.
Mind you, I don't know how high the terror threat from people who are ideologically aligned to groups like Al-Qaeda is in the UK at the moment. I don't think it's as high. I don't know if it's as high as it was some time ago. I mean, I think back to the London bombings, the train bombings. We've had a couple of lone knife attacks. I think there was the London Bridge attack. So these type of attacks tend to be quite, first of all, they're quite rare. A lot of them are actually foiled before they happen. There was also another group of attacks that happened kind of like in different areas in London. I think they went through Borough Market, and but it's not often that they actually specifically go after one person or have one person like on their list. So that is very, very frightening. But I'm wondering, if there are any terror cells in the UK that are linked to Al-Qaeda that would go, specifically after Harry. I'm wondering why the Home Office isn't even looking into that now. Harry doesn't have to be in the country for them to be looking into that. If there is someone or anyone ideologically aligned in the UK that would do something to Harry, they don't have to wait until Harry is in the UK, because I don't think that person that person would be a threat, period. Maybe they go crazy one day and they know that they can't get close to Harry, so they just decide to launch some kind of terrorist attack. I believe that type of person is dangerous, period. If they can't go after Harry, maybe they go after, I don't know, somebody else in government. So my question on that is, why wouldn't they look into that anyway, whether Harry's there or not? Just something I thought about.
Own mother. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for security for a few days. We're talking about a few days in which he could have the security which involves armed protection. Yes, he'll bring his own team over, and yes, he pays for his own security. He's even offered to pay for security over here, but you can't buy the Metropolitan Police. That's not possible. They're not for hire. But he does know that they have access, obviously, to arms, to carry guns, which his team will not. And they also have access to intelligence, which his security team do not.
Well, then why can't he do it not in...
And I'm also wondering, with the intelligence, why can't they just tell Harry's security folk what intelligence they have? I mean, let's be honest. We all know that governments listen. They listen to your phone calls. They have access to these things. So if there is someone seriously plotting something, they know exactly who those people are. You know, if Harry's private security team can come up with this report and get the information that they could get, well, then what do the government know that they don't want to tell Harry? Because even last time Harry came, one of the stalkers managed to get close to him twice. Twice. I don't understand why they would not just give Harry's team any additional information they have if they're not going to have armed security. And quite frankly, armed security is very important when you have crazies showing up. That person who showed up at the courthouse, and I think they showed up at 2 other locations where Harry was. I mean, it didn't appear that they were armed, but stalkers like, and again, we don't actually know whether or not that person is a high risk person. You do have some very adamant fans who are fanatical. They do get close to whoever it is that they're obsessing over. They won't necessarily do anything, but at the end of the day, you don't know. You don't know. Something in these people's minds can just switch up one day, and so you can't take the risk. And that's why you need armed security, so that if somebody who maybe physically isn't a risk at one point, if they were to become a risk, yeah, you could take them out. You don't know who's who. There was this one lady, actually, where was Meghan? I think she was in New York. Yes, there was one lady who is actually very well known for finding celebrities. And somehow, don't know how, she managed to actually find out where Meghan was and take a picture with her. A lot of these people, there's a name for it in Korea. They call them super fanatical fans. They'll ring hotels, car services, and I don't recognize this lady as a squaddy. I don't really know what she's about. She just seemed very obsessed with taking photos of different celebrities, and she was there. She took a photo with Meghan. To be honest, she was innocent. She didn't do anything, but she managed to actually find out where Meghan was. And this wasn't someone who was like a pure squaddy. This is just like I call them celebrity chasers. So people are actually able to find out somehow, in some cases, roughly where Harry and Meghan would be. Now, thank goodness, this person was not dangerous. She politely asked for a photo, but goodness knows, she could have had something on her. And that's what's just so worrying and concerning. If Harry and Meghan's team don't have armed security, especially in the UK where the risk is an elevated threat, you need to be able to just take the person out. Sorry to have to say it like that, but if you make yourself a threat, it is what it is. And there are just some crazy, insane people out there. As we now know from this report from Harry's people, at least 6.
For the Invictus, but do it as something where it's just specifically focused bringing his family to this country. See, that's the problem. He appears to use these things to try and force the security, and then he'll go around the country doing this, that and the other and promoting whatever he wants, which I think the royal family have had a sick of, really. He's not a working royal.
He's not a working royal, but he does some very good work, and the Invictus Games are amazing. I mean, everybody must.
And that's a very good point. And I don't like Ginny Bond, but I'm glad she made that point. He may not be a working royal, but he does amazing work. And what does it say? That he is not an official working royal, but he does more amazing work than the other official working royals who are barely even working. They vacation more than they work.
That. I do agree with you, though, that I think it would have been better if he'd come over and done these semi-official bits, you know, the visit to the Chelsea hospital and the Invictus Games by himself, and at a time that none of us knew about, probably brought the country in, the children into this country to see the King. It must be possible. I mean, the word is they are in Europe at the moment on holiday.
Well, they're not at risk in those other countries. Those other countries don't have crazy paparazzi, crazy people who are targeting them. I haven't heard of any fanatics in Italy, Spain, anywhere else you go on mainland Europe who are so deranged, bigoted, arist, that they want to bring harm to Harry's wife and their kids. You don't hear about it. So of course they'd be safe anywhere else they go. And let's not forget, Charles attempted to get other governments not offer security to the Sussexes in other places that they go. And everywhere else that they've been, people have offered them security. That's another thing that's making them mad. Because now they just look extra silly. Why can't you provide security for your own? Everybody else, everywhere else, just sees that as common sense. You don't want an incident on your soil. Nobody now, especially after Diana, God forbid, do you want on your soil, something happen on your soil to Prince Harry or Duchess Meghan and their kids? Would you want that? It haunts Paris to this day. That memory is always there. Nobody in their right mind of any official ranking would want something like that to happen in their country. Nobody wants that type of heat. But for some reason, the King of the United Kingdom and all of his realms wouldn't mind that happening on British soil to his son. What is going on? Also, just so we're clear, let me just load this on my page. Senior palace aides who sit on the so-called Ravet committee. Prince of Wales's private secretary, senior aide who sits on the committee and represents William. Master of the King's household, a senior palace official responsible for the internal management and domestic staff for the royal palace. And Clive Alderton. Wasn't he the wasp? Simon Case was the fly, and we're going to get on to Simon Case in a sec. The King's private secretary, he sits on the board directly to represent Charles. He represents Charles! He replaced Queen Elizabeth's former private secretary, Sir Edward Young. I think, wasn't Edward Young the bee? I could be getting them confused. There was a wasp, the wasp, the fly, and something else. The scorpions, the snakes, the centipedes, the sharks, the lizards, all up in that palace. Including Simon Case. Simon Case was the fly, and for some reason, Simon Case has decided that he's going to talk and he's going to talk about Harry. Now, this is the same Simon Case that was... Oh, hang on a sec, folks. For some reason, I can't find the article. Same Simon Case who was responsible for that ridiculous stunt where they flew planes to pick up Kate and William in an attempt to make it look like they flew commercial. No, let me just look for this article. Okay. All right, that's taken a while, so I think I might actually come back to that. Because I'm not gonna... Oh, okay, no, sorry. It's low. That was taking a while. That's annoying. So in his memoir, Spare, Harry actually referred to Simon Case as the fly. Case was William's private secretary from 2018 through to 2020, and a brief reprieve between his work as a Tory political operative. One of the biggest slime bags in government, he was called. One could argue, as I have, that Case was absolutely doing Tory party political work as William's private secretary as well. That Case was there specifically to groom William to be the British Conservatives' useful idiot, heir and king. In Spare, Harry detailed at length his complaints about Case's maneuvers. And Case was also a huge part of the Sandringham Summit in 2020, in which Prince William and then Prince Charles decided that the Sussexes needed to be thrown out without security. Under Case's watch, Harry and Meghan were scapegoated and mercilessly attacked to keep the heat off of Prince William and Kate for years, and Prince Andrew. Case also oversaw the absolute mess between Dan Wootton and Kensington Palace staffer Christiane Jones, which is still a shocking story which should have been much, much bigger news. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to go back to that byline article one day and reread it. I actually need to revisit that in light of everything that's happened recently. So I'm going to have a bonus podcast one of these days where I read that article back, because we need to revisit that. So after Case left Kensington Palace, he went straight to work for Boris Johnson and the Tories. He's managed to fail upwards ever since, and he has a life peerage and sits in the House of Lords. Yeah, that's how they reward the likes of Simon Case. All of that slithering, conspiring, and manoeuvring, and he came out ahead. Well, Case recently chatted with the Telegraph, of course he did, and they asked him about Prince William and Harry. Working in Downing Street, Case was about managing the downside risk of everything. He had far more fun working for Prince William as his private secretary. A job, he says, was a lot more optimistic and positive. I mean, between working in the snake pit of Parliament and the snake pit of the palace, which do you think is worse? I mean, at least if you work in the snake pit of the palace, maybe you get to go to a banquet or two. Which would you choose? Let's take a vote in the comment section, just for fun. Gun to your head. Would you rather work in the snake pit of the palace or the snake pit of government and parliament? Which one? Government might pay you more, at least up front. Being in the snake pit of the palace, maybe they pay you a little bit more afterwards to shut up. Working in the palace, I guess maybe that would give you a little bit more clout in, aristo circles. It's a hard choice, isn't it? I think I might choose government, just because maybe the clout. I feel like I could do a little bit more with the clout, me personally. Maybe you could write a book. You could give speeches. You could start a podcast. Yeah, I'd rather be in the snake pit of government. Wouldn't go anywhere near these folks. I mean, Meghan's dog had its legs broken. Wouldn't risk it. Bachimata, you just take the bullet. Anyway, William. So according to Simon Case, William is very, very personable behind closed doors and very relaxed. Really? Is that why he couldn't keep his temper and threw his brother on a dog bowl? Fatima, you say joking, I'll leave the country. Case thinks that each generation defines monarchy for its time, and that when William becomes king, he and Catherine will at times be much more accessible and relaxed in public settings than his father, and certainly his grandmother would have ever been. Even with the Not My King folk screaming at every event. You think they'll be more relaxed? You sure, Simon? Prince Harry is expected to bring his 2 children this week, and Case is asked whether he thinks William will meet his brother. Case says, I don't know. Probably, like most people deep down, you sort of hope one day there will be a reunion. It's just real sadness seeing a family sort of break up. That was definitely not fun to watch and witness. I hope one day they can be brothers in arms at once. What a snake! What a lying snake! Case was a huge part of the larger effort to destroy Harry and Meghan, mostly Meghan. And Case was also a huge part in driving the wedge between Harry and William. Not to mention co-authoring the terms of the Sussexit, what they called Megxit. And now, 6+ years removed from his actions and choices, Case has the audacity to sit there declaring it's just a real sadness seeing a family sort of break up. I always wonder about all of these conservative plans for William. Are these people ever worried about the monster that they've created and enabled at every turn? This could all blow up in their Tory faces, by the way. And then they really have a disaster on their hands. I don't think they realise that they have a disaster king on their hands. I don't think they realise that the train is going to fully go off the rails. Are they disappointed at how he's turned out now? And what an incredible king without a crown Harry is. William should be the man that Harry is. He should have all the attributes of Harry to be future king. But the establishment doesn't groom you to be a person of compassion, of empathy, of real impact. You are groomed to keep the status quo. All right, next thing. Charles and Camilla are going to enter their thirst trap areal. No, they are not going on OnlyFans. Thank goodness. Ain't nobody want to see that. They are looking for an on-trend content creator. Mind you, for years, Harry and Meghan were attacked for doing what the working royals are trying to do now. Like all of this with the social media and the reels and whatnot, that was Harry and Meghan that made that popular. Now they're on podcasts. You see William is going to be on Taylor Swift's now husband's show. I forget his name. Travis Kelce? She's going to be on his podcast. He's going to be on his podcast. Does the Travis Kelce crowd care about Prince William? I feel like the Travis Kelce crowd, the American bro, loves his beer, loves his sports, loves the Super Bowl. I feel like they'd probably be more interested to hear what Prince Harry has to say. Loves the vets. Like, that's what I imagine in my head, the stereotype of people who who would listen to that podcast are. So I'm struggling to know what Prince William would say that would be so interesting. But from the screenshots I saw, apparently they were laughing. I mean, Kate and William were leaking about them being at Taylor Swift's wedding. I'm so sure, to be honest, if it wasn't for the fact that Harry and Meghan were coming to the UK, I think that they would have tried to weasel their way into that wedding. But they had to be in the UK. Williams also done an interview with Canadian actor Eugene Levy, a figure with clear crossover appeal in North America. And the Welleses have leaned heavily into glossy digital content. Carefully produced videos, polished social media, storytelling. Kate's recent 3 Peaks challenge, which was logged as an official engagement, also appeared to involve professional filming. And now, Charles and Camilla have reportedly hired an official videographer in a first for the British monarchy. The role is said to involve creating on-trend digital content to maximize their global reach. What kind of on-trend digital content are Charles and Camilla going to do? Mind you, let me just say, there are content creators who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. I even follow, there's a 90-year-old content creator, absolutely killing it. Because yes, there is an audience for everyone. And people of different ages, backgrounds want to see themselves reflected at different stages of life, doing different things. Perhaps doing things that aren't typical or society wouldn't typically imagine they're doing. There's a lot of women who I follow, 60s plus, who are fashion creators. They do things like also skincare, because obviously your skincare needs, your health needs, fitness needs are different at every age. So there are content creators of different ages. But what are Charles and Camilla going to do that is on trend? They're going to start doing TikTok dances now? And this is years after pretending that Harry and Meghan's media deals was some kind of royal scandal. The truth is that it's not so much that they objected to the Sussexes producing content, it's that they objected to the Sussexes doing it successfully, independently, and globally. If you ask me, actually, I still feel when it comes to social media, Harry and Meghan are operating at 50% of what they could do if they wanted. If they wanted. Archwell doesn't even have social media yet. Meghan posts, well, she doesn't post that often. They post what they feel comfortable with. They're pacing themselves. If they wanted to hire a social media team that did posts, captions, reels, photos every single day, one post a day, they could do that. They could. They haven't. At least not for now. You know, Charles has, I believe he has a Prime Video documentary, Finding Harmony, A King's Vision. William has his Prince William, We Can End Homelessness, that 2-part documentary that he did. And was very highly criticized. They're just copying the Harry and Meghan playbook. That's what they're doing. And to see the Wells family come out, just so happens that the most we've ever seen these people is the week that they know Harry and Meghan are bringing their kids. I mean, I just find it interesting. Pippa decided that she didn't want to go on the hike. Pippa, who, when the news broke about Kate's illness, went on holiday to the Caribbean, by the way. I don't think that Kate and Pippa have a very good relationship. I think that, and partly I do think it's because of the British tabloids, but you know, the tabloids can do what they want to do. Family is family. I think the jealousy started on Kate's wedding day when they made a big deal about Pippa's bum. Pippa's bum was a bigger headline than the wedding. Right, let's go to your comments. Look, ultimately, in conclusion, this all comes down to Charles. Everybody in that institution is following Harry and Meghan's footsteps, indeed. The pensioners' global reach. There are literally pensioners that have global reach. But it's not Charles and Camilla. Helen, you said that Simon Case has been hit by karma. He has a neurological issue. Yes, I heard about this. I mean, there's no way you can be such a snake for so much of your life and be okay. I do believe that being a bad person eats at your health. I think it actually triggers the same physical reaction in your body and mind as stress does. And in a way, I don't know if it's cortisol exactly, but I do believe that there's something in your body that is triggered when you are a very hateful person. And I think it affects you physically. All right. I think I'm going to end things there. Thank you so much for everyone who rejoined when I had to restart the podcast. So sorry about that. I hope the sound has been better. I'm going to rewatch it. But because it was at the beginning of the last podcast and apparently went on for 10 minutes, I said, nope, got to restart it. Can't be having that. Hey, Benjamin, hope you're good. All right, folks. Enjoy the rest of your day. New week. We'll see how the day goes. We'll see what comes out. I may do another podcast later today. Let's see. Let's see. And yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed for tomorrow. I will be waiting very patiently, and we will have a breaking news podcast whenever that judgment comes through. Also, I did remember, for those of you that are more interested in like women's empowerment, remember I did start another YouTube, but I recently rebranded it. And it's, if you're interested in that, go to the community tab and I posted about it there. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow, folks. Let's take a deep breath and see what happens. Ciao.